How's it going, YouTube? And welcome to another episode of the Talk Sports Show with Alec Pecano. Let's get right into the show. Here are my NBA upset picks for tonight. My first upset is the Cleveland Cavaliers plus 3.5 to upset the Milwaukee Bucks. The Cavs are on the road in this game, and I venture to bet that Cleveland can pull the upset here for one reason. I think Garland and Mitchell are both going to play. And that duo against Damian Lillard and Giannis, this should be a really good game. And I like Cleveland here to pull the upset. My second upset is the Dallas Mavericks plus 3.5 to upset the Los Angeles Lakers. And the reason I like this one is because I feel like the Lakers, they're struggling right now. They've had issues in the locker room with Darvin Ham. And we've heard rumblings that they might fire Darvin Ham, but then it comes out that they're still committed to Darvin Ham. They want to keep him. I don't know how much validity I put behind that. Because you know Rob Pelinka, if one thing goes wrong, he will fire Darvin Ham. But I don't trust the Lakers here to win. I don't trust them. I think Dallas can pull the upset plus 3.5. And the last upset I have, and this is a game between two teams that have no business being near the playoffs. And that is the Portland Trailblazers and the Brooklyn Nets. I have the Portland Trailblazers plus 6 to upset the Brooklyn Nets. And the reason I have this upset is because I like the young duo of Shaedon Sharpe. Anthony, my bad. I had a little brain fart. Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, and Amen Thompson. I like that young duo compared to what Brooklyn's got with Cameron Johnson, Malik, Mikal Bridges, and Nick Claxton, and Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons has barely played, so because he's always hurt. So I will take Portland every single day of the week here to pull the upset. Now, I'm going to preview and talk about all the divisional round games for the NFL. The first one I'm going to preview is Green Bay and San Francisco. Now, I wasn't surprised that Green Bay beat Dallas, but I was surprised how bad they beat Dallas. They bludgeoned the Cowboys on the ground. The Cowboys could not stop the run to save their life. They could not stop the run. And what do you think San Francisco is going to take away from that game? Green Bay is dangerous. If San Francisco doesn't watch out, they might get upset. I highly doubt it, though. I'm going to give you 3 keys for both teams. First, I'm going to go with Green Bay. Here's my 3 keys for Green Bay to pull off the upset here against San Francisco and stay alive in the playoffs. Number 1, don't turn the ball over. You turn the ball over, you're going to end up losing the game. I said the same thing about the Buccaneers against Philly on Monday night. And look at the Buccaneers. They didn't turn the ball over. and they figured out a way to stop the tush push and end the Eagles' season. If Green Bay can do the same thing, limit turnovers, and on defense, force Brock Purdy into throwing interceptions, fumbling the ball, and taking sacks, Green Bay will have a chance to win this game. Number two, you got to contain Christian McCaffrey. If McCaffrey has a big game, that most likely means San Francisco's going to win. If you can keep McCaffrey under 80 yards rushing, I think you'll have a good chance to win. And then three, don't let the combination of Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle get over 100 yards receiving. Hold them to, if you give up 100 yards receiving to one of them, you might be fine. But if you give up 100 yards receiving to all three, I think you're toast. And I think that's your season, Green Bay. Those are the three keys for Green Bay. Now, three keys for San Francisco. Number one, ball control. Ball control. Control the football. Don't let Green Bay have the ball for more time than you do. If you have to, just turn around, hand the ball off to McCaffrey, let him get 5 to 10 yards of play, and then when the Packers, when they load the box, go throw it deep, and that's how you get your points. Two, no pre-snap penalties. Don't be stupid. Be smart. Don't give away don't let penalties end drives. Because you're going to need to score. Because Green Bay's probably going to score too. And number three, get Debo involved early and often. And I think this is going to be a really good game here between Green Bay and San Francisco. And I think San Francisco ends up winning. And I think they win by 10, 35-21. No, 35-24. That's more than 10, but I think they win by somewhere around there. Bay does keep it close for a little bit, but then San Francisco just starts running the ball, and it tires Green Bay, and Green Bay ends up folding. So my winner in this game is San Francisco. The next NFC divisional round game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. And I just saw an interesting nugget about this game. And it has nothing to do with either of the teams in it. If you didn't know, as you know, I'm a Tampa Bay Lightning fan as well. Guess who the Lightning play Sunday afternoon? Right around the same time of the Buccaneers-Lions game. They play the Detroit Red Wings. So, Lightning, if you're listening to this, maybe you should carpool with the Buccaneers to Detroit. But anyway, back to previewing this game. The Buccaneers have played the Lions this year, and they lost. The Lions are a really good team, and I'll give you three keys to how the Buccaneers can win. One, you got to limit the passing yards of Jared Goff. Because if Jared Goff has over 300 passing yards, Detroit's probably leading, and they're probably going to win this game. So that's one. Two, keep Amon-Ra St. Brown under 100 yards receiving. We did a terrible job last week of keeping Devontae Smith under 100. He went way over 100 yards receiving. For the Bucs to pull off the upset. Again, like they did against Philly, don't turn the ball over. If you don't turn the ball over, you're going to have a really good chance at winning this game. For Detroit, here's my three keys for the Lions. Run mix the run and the pass. Don't become one-dimensional, which means don't lean on the run unless you have to. If you think the Bucs are going to take Laporta, Amon-Ra, Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams all out of the game, then you can lean on the run, but don't become one-dimensional because that might hurt you in the end, and it might help the Buccaneers win the game. 2, get your skilled players involved early and often in the game. Whether that be a screen pass to Amon-Ra, whether that be against Sam Laporta a couple targets early in the game, Jahmyr Gibbs a couple rushes early in the game, David Montgomery a rushing touchdown, trick plays. Get your skilled position guys involved early. And number 3, and I think this is the biggest key for the Lions, always make sure you double cover Mike Evans because he looked like he had a field day against Philly on Monday night. So double cover Mike Evans whenever you can. Don't let him get free down the field. And here's my pick. I think this is going to be another good divisional round game. And the winner of this plays the winner of Green Bay, San Francisco. And I think if the Buccaneers follow the 3 keys I gave them, I think they end up pulling the upset here and beating Detroit and sending Detroit home. And so, with that being said, I think the Buccaneers end up winning this game 35-28. The next game I will be doing a preview / giving you 3 keys for is the Texans and the Ravens. Now, this may be the game of the week for the divisional round. Ravens and Texans. These teams met in week 1 when it was the first career start for CJ Stroud and the first career game as a head coach for DeMeco Ryans. And the Ravens ended up winning. But CJ Stroud showed out in that game, and I think he's going to do the same thing again. But I don't think Houston's going to win. Here's 3 keys I would give Houston in order to potentially have a chance at winning this game. 1, limit Lamar Jackson rushing the football. Because you know if his receivers aren't open, he's going to take off and run. So that's 1. 2, make sure you have a spy on Lamar so he doesn't take off and run. And then double cover Zay Flowers at your own every play if you have to. I'd rather have Odell or Rashad Bateman beat me than have Zay Flowers beat me for a touchdown deep. And so that's my 3 keys for the Texans. For the Ravens, my 3 keys are run the ball early and often. So that whether it be Gus Edwards, whether it be Justice Hill or Dalvin Cook, who supposedly is now on the Ravens, run the ball early and often. 2, play action. Get the Texans defense moving laterally, sideline to sideline, and get your tight ends involved. It sounds like Mark Andrews might play in this game. And 3, whatever you do, don't let Nico Collins have a big game. If Nico Collins has a big game, you're probably going to lose. And with that being said, my pick for this game is the Baltimore Ravens to win. And the next topic I'm going to cover before I get to the last divisional round game is who should trade for Justin Fields or the number one pick. I'm going to give you 3 teams I think should trade for Justin Fields. And if you agree with me or disagree with me, please feel free to sound off down in the comments section down below and tell me who you think should trade for Justin Fields. If you're on the Bears side and say, or if you want to keep Justin Fields and trade the number one pick. So my first team that should trade for Justin Fields would be the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to have a new head. There's 2 reasons why I think they should trade for Justin Fields. One, they're going to have a new head coach next year. And I feel like it's only right for them to get their quarterback because Desmond Ridder is not a good quarterback. And I feel like if they get their quarterback, and maybe it's Fields, then they can maybe win that division, the NFC South. The number 2 team, I said 3 teams. Here's team number 2 that I think should trade for Justin Fields. And you can agree with me or disagree with me. Like I said, I think the Washington Commanders should trade for Justin Fields. They're another team that's going to have a new head coach. They have new ownership. And the ownership, it seems like, wants their own quarterback. So what I would do if I was the GM of the Commanders is I'd call up the Bears and say, we'll give you number 2. And I'm doing this as if the Bears were going to trade Justin Fields. I don't think they will. We won't know until April, but I don't think they're going to trade Justin Fields. But hypothetically, if they did, the Commanders could call them up and say, here, we'll give you number 2 for number 1 and Justin Fields and a future first. Who says no to that? I think neither team says no because it's a fair trade-off. The Commanders get their quarterback and the Bears get the second pick and they still have their own pick plus a future first-round pick from Washington. And Washington now has their quarterback that they have 1 year to see if he's actually the guy because he's got his 5th-year option that maybe the Commanders pick up because they think maybe he's better than Sam Howell, which I think he is. Sam Howell is good, but I think Justin Fields is wavelengths better than Sam Howell. And then the last team I think should trade for Justin Fields. And this is if they don't re-sign Baker Mayfield and they choose not to go draft the quarterback. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Jason Light, the Glazers are one of the weakest ownership groups in the NFL because they own the Buccaneers, but they also own Manchester United, which is the best soccer team in the English Premier League. So I understand why they don't really spend money. But Jason Light, if you don't re-sign Baker Mayfield, I would go out and trade for Justin Fields. And you could ask the Bears, give you Fields and the 9th pick, and you'll give them your first-round pick and a future first-rounder for Justin Fields. And so now I give you 3 teams I think should trade for Fields. I'll give you 3 teams I think should trade for that first pick. Number 1, I just talked about this team a minute ago, the Washington Commanders. I said they should trade for Fields, and now I think I think if they can't get Fields, they should trade their number 2 pick for number 1 and a future first, so they can move up and take Caleb Williams. So that leaves the Bears with no choice but to take Marvin Harrison at number. And the other reason I think Washington should do this is because, again, they're going to have new ownership for one. 2, they need their franchise quarterback, and Caleb Williams is not going to be there at 2. If they stick at 2 and the Bears stay at 1. Because what I think is going to happen is the Bears end up somehow trading Justin Fields to somebody for a second-round pick, which I think is absolutely absurd. I think Fields is worth more than a second-round pick. I'd give up a late first-round pick for Justin Fields if I was a team that needed a quarterback that wasn't going to get one of the top 4 QBs. Anyway, so that's the Commanders. Number 2, New England Patriots. The Patriots are another team that needs a quarterback. And Gerard Mayo is the new head coach, which tomorrow's show, it's either tomorrow or Friday, I will be talking about what I think about Kalen DeBoer getting the Alabama job and what I think about Belichick. Gerard Mayo getting the Patriots job. That's either tomorrow's show or on Friday. But anyway, if the Patriots trade up to 1, they could take Marvin Harrison or they could take a quarterback. And I think it'd be smart for New England to do that because then they get their guy and they get their guy at either quarterback or they get that generational wide receiver that they needed for the offense. The last team that should trade for number 1 is the Atlanta Falcons. I know I just said they should trade for Justin Fields, but if they can't get Fields, maybe they can get the number 1 pick and they trade their middle of the first round. So I think it's like 8 or 9. It's between 8 and 10 because number 9 is Chicago. It's somewhere in the top 10. They should trade their top 10 pick to Chicago for number 1 so they could take Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels if they really want to. That's who I think should either trade for Fields or the number 1 pick. Now, the next thing I will be going over is the last divisional round game. It's between the Bills and Chiefs. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I think Buffalo beats Kansas City here because it's at Buffalo. If it was in KC, I would say the Chiefs win easily, but it's in Buffalo, so I think Buffalo beats Kansas City. So now I'm going to give you 3 I think could be the next head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers. Number 1, Jim Harbaugh. Number 3, Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was the offense coordinator for the Chargers last year. And it sounds like he is going to interview for the Chargers head coaching position. And I wouldn't mind Kellen Moore being the Chargers head coach, but I think he needs maybe 1 or 2 more years as the offensive coordinator. Number 2, Dave Canales, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another guy that is getting talked about around the league as a potential head coaching candidate. And I think he would love working with Justin Herbert, and they would be a nice combination. And number 1, and the most obvious one, Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh has already interviewed with the Chargers And I think if he doesn't go to any of the other teams that interview him and he goes to the Chargers, I think the Chargers are instantly a playoff team with that roster. Now 3 head coaching candidates on the Panthers. Number 3, Thomas Brown. He was the offensive coordinator for Carolina this year. I think he would make a good head coach for the Panthers because I don't think they're going to get any of the big fish that are out there. But Thomas Brown worked with Bryce Young this year. He was the offensive coordinator. Bryce Young was the quarterback. I think that Thomas Brown would be a really good head coach for Carolina. Number 2, the number 2 person for the head coaching job in Carolina is the offensive coordinator from the Chiefs and the Commanders, Eric Bieniemy. I think Bieniemy would be a really good head coach because he knows how to develop a quarterback. He did it with Mahomes. I think he can do it with Bryce Young in Carolina. And number 1, Chris Tabor. He was the interim head coach this year after they fired Frank Reich. I think he would be a good head coaching candidate for Carolina also. And now the last segment of the show. Here are some way too early win totals for college football for 4 teams. And I will also go over their schedule. So number 1, Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to win 8 or 9 games in their first season in the SEC with Jackson Arnold as their quarterback. Hey, Arnold. Number 2, SMU. I think they get 7 or 8 wins in their first year in the ACC. Tulsa, 4 or 5 wins. The AAC is going to be very competitive this year, but I also is a couple years away from really competing in the AAC. And the last one, Mississippi State, 6 or 7 wins this year. In a competitive SEC, I can see where Mississippi State wins 6 or 7 games. And now I will be giving you their schedules and giving you the games they win and lose. So, Oklahoma starts the season August 31st at home against Temple. I think they win that, so they're 1-0. They play Houston. That's another win, 2-0. Then they play Tulane at home. Now, this is kind of a toss-up. It could be a win, it could be a loss. I'm going with right now it's a win, so they're 3-0. Going into conference play at home against Tennessee, and I think they beat Tennessee to go to 4-0. So then they play at Auburn. And I had Auburn going 7-5, and this was one of Auburn's losses. So Oklahoma wins, and they're 4-1 now. Temple, Houston, Tulane. Yeah, 4-1. So they come off their bye week, and they play Texas in the Red River Showdown. Now, they beat Texas last year and gave Texas its only loss until Texas played Washington. I think it's the opposite this year. I think Texas beats Oklahoma, so Oklahoma is now 4-2. Oklahoma then plays South Carolina. I think that's a win. They go to 5-2. Then they play at Ole Miss. I think they lose that one, so they're 5-3. They beat Maine 6-3. Missouri, that's another toss-up. Right now, I'm going to say that's a win. So there's 7-3. Alabama's a loss. They're going to lose to Alabama. And then they beat LSU. So that makes them 8-4. With their losses being to Alabama, Ole Miss, Ole Miss, Texas, and Tennessee. So they go 8-4, which is a good season for Oklahoma. SMU. SMU schedule. So they start the season at home against Houston. I'm going to assume that's Houston. That's a win, so they're 1-0. Then they play TCU in a rivalry game, and I think they beat TCU, so they're 2-0. Then they play at Duke. It's Manny Diaz's first year at Duke, so I think they beat Duke, so they're 3-0. Then they play at Louisville, and I think that's a win, so they're 4-0. Then they play Boston College at home, a loss. I think people are sleeping on Boston College because of the way they finished last season. So SMU is now 4-1 going into the Cal game. I think they beat Cal. They're 5-1. They lose to Florida State 5-2. They beat Pitt 6-2. Beat Stanford 7-2. Lose to, I think Virginia is going to be better this year. I think they lose to Virginia 6-4 and beat BYU 7-4. So they go 7-4 in their first year in the ACC. Tulsa. So Tulsa starts at the year against Northwestern State at home. That's a win, so they're 1-0. At Arkansas State, that's a loss, 1-1. At Oklahoma State, loss, 1-2. Oh no, that's at home. I still think they lose to Oklahoma State, so they're 1-2. Louisiana Tech on the road, that's a win. So they're 2-2. At home against North Texas, loss. So they're 2-3. No, at North Texas, lost 2-3. They're at Temple, that's a loss, 2-4. Army at home. This is a toss-up. This could be a win. I'm going to give them right now. It's going to be a win. So they're 3-4. East Carolina win 4-4. Lose to FAU 4-5. Lose to UTSA 4-6. Beat UAB 5-6. And lose to USF 5-7. So Tulsa in year 2 under head coach Kevin Wilson will go 5-7. So Mississippi State starts the year at home against Eastern Kentucky. I think that's a win, so they're 1-0. Then they play at Arizona State. I think Arizona State is going to be good this year, but I think Mississippi State wins, so they're 2-0. Then they play Toledo at home. That should be a win, 3-0. Then they get Florida at home. I don't think Florida's going to be good, so that's a win, so they're 4-0. Then they go at Texas for their second conference game. I think that's a loss, so they're 4-1 going into their bye week. Oh boy, they come out of their bye and they play at Georgia, at home against A&M, Arkansas, UMass, Tennessee. I think they lose to Georgia, so they're 4-1. Beat A&M, lose to A&M 5-2. Beat Arkansas 6-2. Beat UMass 7-2. Lose to Tennessee 7-3. At Missouri at home, win 8-3. Beat Ole Miss, which makes them 9-4. Wait, we're gonna go over this one more time. So they beat Eastern Kentucky, they're 1-0. Beat Arizona State on the road, 2-0. Beat Toledo on the road, 3-0. Beat Florida at home, 4-0. Lose to Texas, 4-1. Lose to Georgia, 4-2. Beat Texas A&M, 5-2. Beat Arkansas, 6-2. Beat UMass, 7-2. Lose to Tennessee, 7-3. Lose to Missouri, 7-4. And lose to Ole Miss, 7-5. So Jeff Lebby in his first year as Mississippi State's head coach goes 7-5. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to tell you, next Saturday night at 8 o'clock, I have a special show for you. It is not Talk Sports Show. If you're a WWE fan, you know what next Saturday night is. It is the Royal Rumble. And that means that I will be streaming my live reactions to the Royal Rumble on my YouTube. So please join the live stream. But that'll do it today for the Talk Sports Show. I will see y'all back here tomorrow, probably around 1 o'clock. Until then, peace.